everybody. I'm Dr. Adam Mathews with Mathews Counseling, and we are here with Marcelina Grynechko, one of our newest therapists at Mathews Counseling and a brand new mom. So congratulations on that, Marcy.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Baby boy, right?
Yeah, it's a boy.
Awesome. Well, so excited for you. And you talking about a timely issue today about in heterosexual couples when there's a pregnancy involved and how sex can sometimes decrease during pregnancy and some of the myths and challenges around that and wanting to talk about that. So kind of tell us a little bit about the idea of when men see their wives pregnant, right? And there's stuff that happens there. There's a lot of challenges that happen during a pregnancy to stay connected intimately. So tell me a little bit about that. Where are you kind of coming from and seeing the challenges here?
Yeah, so I want to start with kind of, I'm writing from my own experience because, even when I've watched media before, it was obvious to me that it's always the man who wants sex, and regardless if female is on her period or pregnant. And I found myself in a opposite situation. So I was like, is there something wrong with me, or there's something wrong with our relationship? And I started researching and Googling basically and reading articles. And it turns out that men also might find themselves, with decreased sex drives when their female partner is pregnant.
Yeah.
So I decided to write about that.
Yeah, I think there's a big myth out there that it is always the men with higher libidos, and we know as couples therapists that's not always the case, and that's very often we come in and it's the female partner in a heterosexual relationship who wants sex more than the male partner, or their sex drive is just higher, right?
Yeah.
Their libido is higher, and so from your standpoint too, you're talking about then pregnancy gets thrown into the mix. And what do you think when there's pregnancy that happens, right? It's a beautiful thing, joyous time, often for couples. And what does that do to their sex life? And obviously when we talk about this stuff, it's not 100% across the board, right? But kind of what you're discovering and with your couples and what happens there?
Yeah, so there are plenty of challenges for both partners, and for men specifically. Men might experience conflicting feelings about being a father and at the same time a partner, an intimate partner. They also there is a lot of myths and a lot of and also lack of education, I feel like, for couples around sex and pregnancy. So for example, there are a lot of myths like, oh, if I'm gonna hurt the baby with my penis when we have a sex, or I'm touching his head, or he's moving and he knows that, things like that. He knows that we are doing it. So there is also another thing, like he's worried about the partner, like, is it going to hurt you? Females go through different hormonal changes, like they increase their dryness, and he might be worried that it's not pleasurable for her, or things like that, or she's going to be bleeding, which is possible too, obviously. And then
there's things like that. Well, I just want to stop for a second and say, like, there's those myths that you're somehow going to touch the baby, or you're going to like injure or the baby's going to know, like those type of things. They're just very persistent. It's really hard to kind of dispel a lot of those myths that are out there about that, because I think it's not sex, and especially sex during pregnancy, is just something that doesn't get talked about very much at all.
Yeah, that's very true. And again, when you go to like Instagram or other like social media platforms, these myths are so prevalent that you're like, what is there something wrong with us or with me?
Yeah. Yeah, there's another one. There's another thing that you talk about in your post as well, is just this conflictual that the male partner may be very conflicted about his role as a father, and that there can be some underlying anxiety there. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, that was a thing that really I didn't think of before. That we expect parents to be basically ready to
Yeah.
have a baby, and then it turns out that there are a lot of underlying beliefs or underlying patterns that might interfere. So, um, for example, when a man they are worried that they're not going to be a good dad. Like if, let's say, they come from an environment where the men didn't have a good parents, or they maybe they have been neglected or abused, they might be worried that they're going to kind of pass these patterns um, onto a baby. And
Mm,
so there is anxiety and kind of withdrawal and avoidance.
yeah.
And we know that avoidance impacts libido, like
Yeah.
so things like that.
Mm. Yeah, and I think that there's those underlying that under any underlying anxiety that exists, right? Like you said, it's going to impact libido. It's going to affect how the couple talks about sex during pregnancy. It's going to like because that's one of the biggest challenges I think is just getting that conversation off the ground. If there's underlying anxiety, fears, issues coming up for that person as a father, and even for the mother as well, like those things are going to kind of be impactful. So let's talk just a bit brief about what are some things people can do, like how do we kind of address the idea of stay because we want couples need to stay connected during pregnancy. They need to stay intimately connected, and so and because of those the we don't want what happens during the pregnancy to become a pattern in the couple's sex life, going forward. So, talk to me a little bit about some solutions that you think people can work on when they're in this situation.
I think starting with education, digging in a little bit deeper about the issue. Actually, I found a lot of good articles that talked about very similar issues that I experienced. So the information is out there, and also we know that parents are not. There is no school of parenting basically that is accessible for everyone. So um, these resources will be very helpful and kind of in challenging these beliefs that come with pregnancy. Another solution is obviously, which is very difficult,
Yeah,
is communicating with your partner in a very
yeah,
open way. And again, if there has been negative cycle before the baby
mm,
was born, it's going to probably increase the anxiety and
yeah,
make these patterns a little bit more rigid. So working on a communication, being curious, asking
hmm,
questions instead of blaming and trying to
yeah.
find immediately solution, because digging in first instead of finding solution, I found it personally helpful.
Yeah, I think that's a real huge one because I think there's a lot of we talk a lot about with our couples about just like normalizing talking about sex in their relationship in the first place, right? But especially during a pregnancy or during any kind of life change, but normalizing being able to talk about it and talk about it openly. It is you're right. Like it's easier said than done, but being able to have those communications, it's perfectly normal for libido to ebb and flow. And like you're saying, your experience was it was higher during pregnancy, and everybody's different, right? Everybody's going to be different. So for some women, it's going to be higher. For some women, it's going to be lower. Some men are going to be challenged with it, like and so like being able to talk openly about it, I think, is being helpful. You talk too about other ways to like that specifically, and I think this is one of the myths about sex in general. Anyway, is that the only way you're really having sex is if there's penetration involved, right? If you're having intercourse, right? And so, talk a little bit about kind of the thoughts that you had around kind of how partners can communicate about that as well.
Yeah, so I also believe that if your partner is not is so afraid or not willing for in the present moment to engage in intercourse with you, obviously pushing him might really give you opposite effect. So maybe talking about what are other ways that we can have this intimacy and connection, and what other ways we can implement, talking about masturbation, ritual masturbation, oral sex, and obviously making sure that both partners are comfortable, female and the male. But it can be helpful. It doesn't have to always be penetration to have a good sex.
Yeah. Well, and to stay connected physically in that way, I think that's one of the things that like even if the two partners come together and go, we just can't do intercourse isn't an option for us right now, right? And I think building that is going to give a good foundation for your sex life as a whole, when it's not just about intercourse, when it's about mutual stimulation, when it's about connection, when it's about what brings each other pleasure, like all of that stuff. When you're open to talking about oral sex, when you're talking about to using sex toys, when you're open to just what is it that's going to bring us together and help us stay connected in this way, and help us enjoy each other. It goes a long way, right? And it hopefully lays a foundation for the rest of their relationship. Um, Marcy, anything, just kind of a big idea you would want to say to people about this topic before we wrap up?
Yes, I actually was thinking about it, and I would say to any couple that experience concerns like that, I would say, connection before correction, pretty
Oh, I
much.
love that.
Because again, trying to solve the problem without digging into the deep fears and expectations and attachment needs, it might bring short-term solution. Your partner might give in, but it's not going to be I guess, authentic willingness on his part to really engage with you.
Yeah, that's right. That's so good. I love that phrase, connection before correction. That I think you could take that into a lot of different areas, but especially when it comes to discussions about sex, connecting first and then correcting is always going to be better. So thanks for that. Thanks for kind of broaching this topic and being brave enough to talk about it as well. And if, as always, like if we hope these solutions are helpful, but if they're not, like that's what we're here for, is to help get you connected with a couples therapist, so that you can kind of talk through these things with a professional, have a third party help you kind of navigate some what can be really difficult conversations, can have a lot of underlying issues. So as always, you can get connected to a therapist at mathewscounseling.net, or give us a call, 919-587-8018, and our amazing care coordinator Sarah will get you connected to a therapist ASAP. All right. Thank you, Marcy. Thanks so much. Go enjoy that new baby.
Thank you. Bye.